I'd stumbled right into their hornet's nest of fraud, and my boss, Henderson, just growled, "Let it go, Brandon." The very next day, they showed me the door thinking they could bury their filth right along with my career. They had no idea the storm they'd just invited. "Let it go, Brandon," Henderson had snarled. Asterisk, let it go. Asterisk, how could I? Those numbers, they weren't just figures on a spreadsheet to me. They were a language, a story, and the story they were telling was ugly, a twisted tale of deceit, a cancer eating away at the heart of everything. My whole life, you see. Numbers were my sanctuary. They were the one place where things made perfect, unshakable sense. 1+1 always. Asterisk, always asterisk equal to. No grey areas. No fuzzy interpretations. No slick talk trying to convince you otherwise. Just pure and adulterated truth. It was clean, a comfort. Really, in a world that felt increasingly like a three-ring circus run by con artists, I can still hear my grandma's voice, clear as a bell. Even now, she'd be in her kitchen, hands dusted with flour from baking pies, a knowing, almost mischievous twinkle in her eyes as she'd watch me meticulously line up my toy soldiers or count out my Halloween candy hoard. "Trust your gut, boy," she'd say, her voice warm like sunshine on an old wooden porch. "People lie, Brandon. They'll smile right to your face and lie. But numbers don't lie, not if you treat 'em right, not if you listen real close to what they're saying." Her words, they burrowed deep inside me, became a part of my DNA, like the stubborn calic I could never quite tame. So, yeah, I was just Brandon. Brandon Miller, junior analyst of Thorne Investments. Sounds pretty and remarkable, right? And for a while, it was. Head down, fueled by lukewarm coffee and the quiet hum of ambition, just trying to climb that corporate ladder, one painstaking rung at a time. I poured everything into that job. The long hours blurring into weekends. That was just part of the grind. I prided myself on my meticulous nature, on catching the tiny discrepancies, the little red flags that others skimmed right over. I genuinely, foolishly believed they valued that. That my dedication, my almost obsessive attention to detail, actually meant something. Sometimes Henderson, my boss, would glance up from his own mountain of paperwork, a fleeting flicker of something in his eyes and wince. Respect. I could never tell and mumble, "Good job, Brandon. You've got a sharp eye." And like an eager puppy, I'd feel that little swell of pride. See. I'd tell myself. They notice. Hard work pays off. You're making a difference. The God, I was so naive. So utterly, painfully green. Walking through those polished, echoing hallways, I'd nod at the expensive suits, the ones with the $1,000 haircuts and the smiles that never quite reached the cold, calculating eyes. Vipers, every last one of them, slithering silently through their air-conditioned Eden, and I was just completely blind. Too focused on my spreadsheets, on making sure every decimal point was perfectly aligned, on the beautiful, sterile logic of it all. I saw them as colleagues, maybe even mentors if I squinted hard enough. The thought that these sophisticated, powerful men could be orchestrating something so rotten, so fundamentally dishonest, it just wasn't in my internal software. My world was built on order, on precision, on the elegant dance of verifiable facts. Theirs was a whole different, darker, dirtier game. I was a cog, a damn good one, I thought, in a machine I believed was building something solid, something real, something decent. Turns out the whole damn machine was rigged from the start, and I was just another disposable part, easily tossed aside once my precious numbers started whispering secretly, desperately, violently, wanted to keep buried. And Henderson's growl, "Let it go." That wasn't just a suggestion. Oh no. That was a threat, a cold, hard warning that I'd accidentally kicked their meticulously constructed hornet's nest, and they were ready to sting, hard and fast, to protect their queen. Little did they know, I wasn't the type to just nurse a sting and walk away, especially not one that felt this personal, this deeply unjust. Grandma's voice echoed again, louder this time, cutting through the noise and the fear. "Trust your gut, boy. People lie." And my gut, it wasn't just whispering anymore. It was screaming bloody murder. The word "fired" echoed in the sudden, deafening silence of my apartment, bouncing off the bare walls where my Employee of the Month plaque, now a bitter joke, used to hang. It felt like a cheap shot, a sucker punch in a dark alley after they'd already picked my pockets. Restructuring. What a load of crap. They weren't restructuring, they were silencing . And the severance package they'd shove across Henderson's polished mahogany desk. Hush money, plain and simple, a gag order wrapped in a few measly paychecks. For a fleeting, sickening second, a cold wave of despair, heavy and suffocating, washed over me. Maybe Henderson was right. Maybe I should just let it go. Take the pathetic money, disappear, try to bleach the stain of their corruption from my brain. Start over somewhere new, somewhere clean. But then, clear as day, Grandma's face flashed in my mind, that mischievous, knowing twinkle in her eye, the scent of cinnamon and apples clinging to her apron. People lie, Brandon. They'll look you right in the eye and lie. But numbers don't lie. And the numbers, my numbers. The ones they tried to bury, they weren't just whispering anymore, they were roaring, a goddamn symphony of deceit and fraud. Letting it go wasn't an option. It would be like letting them spit on her memory, on everything she'd ever taught me about truth and integrity. It would be letting them murder the truth and dance on its grave. A cold fury, sharp and clean as a newly honed blade, began to solidify in my gut. This wasn't the hot, reckless kind of anger that burns itself out. Oh no. This was patient. This was methodical. They thought they could just swat me away like an annoying fly. They had absolutely no idea who they were dealing with. They'd poked a bear they thought was hibernating. My hands were shaking, not from fear, not yet, but from a righteous bone-deep anger I hadn't known I possessed, a feeling so intense it almost vibrated through me. I paced my small living room, the worn carpet suddenly feeling like the floor of a cage, each step echoing the turmoil inside. Asterisk think, Brandon, think. Asterisk I couldn't go to the press, not yet. They'd tear me apart without concrete proof, paint me as a disgruntled, delusional ex-employee. I needed something more, someone on the inside, someone who hadn't sold their soul for a fat bonus and a view from the top floor. And then, like a lighthouse beam cutting through a thick fog, a name surfaced: Rachel Vance. Rachel. Compliance Department. We'd only interacted a few times, mostly stiff, formal emails about SEC filings and internal audit procedures. But there was a stillness about her, an unnerving directness in her gaze during those rare face-to-face meetings that always seemed to make the slick, back-slapping sales guys squirm in their expensive Italian loafers. She had the reputation, whispered in hushed, almost fearful tones around the water cooler and in the break room, for being a straight shooter, an absolute stickler for the rules, someone with an almost terrifying, unwavering level of iron integrity. If anyone at Thorne Investments still possessed a functioning conscience, a moral compass that hadn't been demagnetized by greed, it was Rachel Vance. The thought of approaching her sent a jolt of pure and diluted fear through me. What if she was one of Asterisk the Asterisk? What if I was walking straight into another, more cleverly disguised trap? But my gut, that old, reliable internal compass Grandma had taught me to trust, was humming a steady, insistent note. Asterisk Rachel. Trust Rachel. Asterisk. Finding her personal email wasn't hard. I still had a few residual tendrils of access, small digital backdoors I'd discovered in my obsessive data spelunking days. Forgotten path was the overpaid, underworked IT department never bothered to properly secure. My fingers flew across the keyboard, fueled by a desperate urgency. I kept the message brief, cryptic, trying to convey the gravity without revealing too much. Asterisk urgent, extremely sensitive information regarding financial irregularities. Need to speak privately. Discretion paramount. Brandon Miller. Asterisk. I hovered over the send button, my breath catching in my throat, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird trying to escape its cage. Then I clicked send. The wait that followed was agonizing. Every creak of the floorboards in my aging apartment building, every distant siren wailing in the city night, sounded like Asterisk, them Asterisk coming for me, their footsteps echoing in the empty spaces of my fear. The first sign they were on to me, that my little act of defiance hadn't gone unnoticed, wasn't a black sedan lurking in the shadows or a threatening, gravelly voice on the phone. It was an email, landing in my personal inbox with the sterile, official thud of a legal document. It was from Thorne Investments' high-priced, shark-toothed lawyers, a cease-and-desist letter dripping with intimidating legalese, accusing me of defamation, unauthorized access to confidential information, theft of proprietary data, and threatening lawsuits that would bury me under a mountain of debt so high I'd never see daylight again. My blood ran cold, turning to ice in my veins. Asterisk, how in the hell did they know? Asterisk, had Rachel betrayed me already? Was she part of their rotten core? Or was this just their standard operating procedure for disgruntled ex-employees who dared to question their pristine image? The letter was meticulously crafted to terrify, to crush any nascent thought of resistance, to make me feel small and utterly powerless. And damn it, for a horrifying moment, it almost worked. The sheer, overwhelming weight of their power, their endless resources, their army of lawyers, felt suffocating. I was just one guy. What chance did I possibly have against a behemoth like Thorne Investments? Then the car started. Nothing obvious, not at first. Just a dark, nondescript sedan, always a few cars back whenever I drove to the grocery store or the laundromat. The same car, I was sure of it, parked down the street from my apartment building late at night, engine off, silent and watchful, a faint, eerie glow from the dashboard, the only sign of life within. Coincidence? Maybe the first time. Maybe even the second. But after the third sighting, the knot of unease in my stomach tightened into a cold, hard fist of paranoia. They were watching me. And worse, the Asterisk wanted Asterisk me to Asterisk no Asterisk I was being watched. The message was chillingly clear: Asterisk, we see you, Brandon. We know what you're thinking. And we can reach you, whenever and wherever we want. Asterisk sleep became a forgotten luxury, every shadow in my cramped apartment morphing into a potential threat, every unexpected noise making me jump. The city, once vibrant and full of anonymous energy, now felt like a hunting ground, and I was the designated prey, constantly looking over my shoulder. Just when I thought the pressure couldn't get any worse, my phone rang, shattering the tense silence of my apartment. Unknown number. My hand hesitated, hovering over the screen. Part of me, the sensible, terrified part, screamed not to answer, to just throw the damn thing against the wall and run. But another part, the stubborn, angry part, the part that was sick of being pushed around, needed to know. I swiped to answer, my voice barely a dry whisper. Hello? Brandon, it's Henderson. His voice, usually so full of oily bluster and grating arrogance, was different. Softer. Smoother. Almost concerned. It was like listening to a rattlesnake try to purr. My stomach churned with revulsion. Listen, son, he said, the false, fatherly sympathy dripping from every syllable like poison. I heard about the lawyer sending you that letter. That's just standard procedure, you know. Overzealous legal eagles protecting the company assets. But I'm worried about you, Brandon. You're a good kid. Smart. You've got a bright future ahead of you. Don't throw it all away over some misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? The sheer, unadulterated audacity of it almost made me laugh, a harsh, bitter sound that caught in my throat. He was trying to gaslight me to make feel like I was the one who was out of line, the one who was crazy. This isn't a misunderstanding, Henderson, I managed, my voice tight as a guitar string, trying desperately to keep the tremor out of it. You know damn well what those numbers said, you saw them, A beat of charged silence crackled over the line. Then the velvet glove came off, and the iron fist beneath was revealed. You're playing with fire, Brandon, he hissed, the manufactured concern evaporating instantly, replaced by that familiar, menacing growl I knew so well. A fire that will burn you to the goddamn ground. Think about your career. Think about your safety. Just let it go, for your own good. The line went dead, leaving his threat hanging in the air like toxic smoke. I stared at the silent phone, his words, for your own good, echoing in my ears. They weren't just trying to scare me anymore. They were threatening me. Openly. And in that precise moment, something inside me snapped. The fear, the doubt, the suffocating paranoia, it all coalesced, hardening into a single, burning point of diamond-hard resolve. They picked the wrong guy. They thought they could bully me, intimidate me, make me crawl back into the shadows with my tail between my legs. They had no earthly idea. This wasn't just about numbers anymore. This wasn't just about my job. This was about justice. This was about right and wrong. And I was going to get it, or die trying. My hand, steady now, reached for the phone again. I had to know if Rachel Vance had gotten my message. The silence from her end was becoming deafening, and a new, chilling fear began to take root. What if they'd gotten to her first? My breath hitched when the call finally connected, not to Rachel's voicemail, but to Rachel herself. Her voice was low, strained, a thin wire pull taut. Brandon, thank God I got your email. We need to meet. Now. Not at my place, not at yours. Somewhere public, but private, you know? We met at a noisy, bustling food court in a downtown mall, the cacophony of 1,000 lunchtime conversations a bizarre shield for the chilling words Rachel spoke. Her face was pale, dark circles under her eyes that hadn't been there during our stiff corporate encounters. She clutched a worn leather briefcase to her chest like a life raft. You were right, Brandon, she whispered, her gaze darting around nervously, even amidst the chaos. Everything you suspected is true, and it's worse, so much worse. My stomach plummeted. How bad? I asked, my own voice barely audible above the din of clattering trays and oblivious laughter. She leaned in, her voice dropping even lower, laced with a fear that was utterly contagious. It goes all the way to the top, Brandon, to the old man himself, Walter Thorne. He's not just away, he's orchestrating the whole damn symphony. Walter Thorne. The patriarch. The untouchable legend whose folksy pronouncements about corporate ethics were plastered all over the company's glossy brochures. The man was a goddamn institution. It was like hearing the Pope was running a drug cartel. A cold dread seeped into my bones, a primal fear I hadn't felt since Henderson's call. But Rachel wasn't finished. Her eyes, wide and haunted, found mine. There was another analyst, she choked out, her hand trembling as she reached for her lukewarm coffee. David Chen, about 2 years ago, bright guy, ambitious, started asking questions about some offshore accounts, things that didn't add up. She paused, swallowing hard. They said it was a car accident. On a clear, dry night. Brake failure, they called it. No witnesses. He was silenced, Brandon. Permanently. Brake failure. Henderson's voice slithered into my memory. Think about your safety. It wasn't a veiled threat anymore, it was a goddamn promise. My blood turned to ice water. We weren't just dealing with white-collar criminals. These were people who would erase you, literally, to protect their gilded kingdom. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of terror. For a split second, every instinct screamed at me to run, to grab Rachel and disappear. Vanish. Forget Thorne Investments ever existed. But then, Grandma's face. That unwavering gaze. Asterisk numbers don't lie, Brandon, then neither does your gut. Asterisk makeup was screaming, alright. Screaming that running was just a slower way to die, a surrender to the darkness. I looked at Rachel, saw the same terror mirrored in her eyes, but underneath it, a flicker of something else, defiance. The same cold fury that had been brewing in me. He's not going to get away with it, Rachel, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, infused with a conviction I didn't know I possessed. They're not going to silence us. She clutched that briefcase tighter. This, she said, nodding towards it, is everything. Copied files, internal memos Thorne thought were buried deeper than bedrock, transaction logs, it's a mountain of damning evidence, Brandon, enough to bury them all. We were dancing with wolves, all right, wolves with very, very sharp teeth and absolutely no conscience. But we had the silver bullets. The walk to the FBI field office felt like miles, every passing car a potential threat, every shadow a lurking assassin. My palms were sweating so bad I could barely grip the handle of my own bag, stuffed with my corroborated findings. Rachel walked beside me, a silent soldier marching towards an unknown battle. Inside, the air was sterile, official. We laid it all out for a stoic, seen-it old agent named Jacobs that cooked books, the shock operations, Henderson's slimy threats, Rachel's intel on David Chen, the sheer, breathtaking scale of the fraud. I watched his eyes widen, just a fraction, as the pieces clicked together, the mask of professional detachment slipping for just a second to reveal a flicker of holy hell. Then came the waiting. Hours, days, stretching into an eternity of gnawing anxiety. Every phone call made my heart leap into my throat. Every knock on the door felt like doom. And then, one crisp morning, my phone buzzed. Agent Jacobs. Turn on the news, Mr. Miller, was all he said. My fingers fumbled with the remote. And there it was. Live footage. Federal agents, dozens of them, a swarm of blue jackets and grim faces, pouring into the gleaming, opulent lobby of Thorne Investments. They were carrying boxes, computers, their movements swift, decisive. I saw Henderson, his face ashen, being escorted out in handcuffs, his arrogant swagger completely gone, replaced by a look of utter, pathetic bewilderment. Then they brought out Walter Thorne himself, the untouchable CEO, looking small and frail and utterly defeated. His ivory tower wasn't just being shaken, it was being torn down, brick by corrupt, blood-stained brick. A wave of something fierce and hot washed over me, not joy, not relief, but a grim, savage satisfaction. The numbers hadn't lied. And finally, they were screaming the truth for the whole world to hear. I was still reeling, the remote slack in my hand, the images of Thorne's empire crumbling, burning behind my eyelids. For a second, just one fleeting, glorious second, I let myself breathe. We'd done it. We'd actually done it. The bastards were going down. Then my phone, the burner Rachel and I had been using, shrieked to life on the coffee table. Not Jacobs. An unknown number. My blood, which had just started to warm, turned to slush. I snatched it up. Hello? Brandon Miller? The voice was ragged, breathless, like the guy had run a marathon. Who is this? I demanded, my newfound relief evaporating like mist in a harsh sun. It's Mike Davies. I worked at Thorne, in analytics, before you, I think. Davies. The name didn't ring a bell. What do you want? They tried to shut me down too, man, about a year back, for digging into some irregularities in the pension funds, real nasty stuff. I've been laying low, scared out of my mind, but I saw the news today. Thorne, Henderson, God, I can't believe it. His voice cracked. Listen, I have more than what you guys probably gave the feds. Stuff that'll nail the coffin shut on Thorne and everyone loyal to him. Documents, recordings, they thought they wiped it all, but I backed it out, everywhere. More evidence? My head was spinning. How much deeper did this cesspool go? Okay, Mike, we need to get that to Agent Jacobs at the FBI, right now. Yeah, about that. His voice dropped, taking on a new, terrifying urgency. There's something else, something awful, Brandon. They got Rachel. The world tilted. What are you talking about? The feds are all over Thorne Investments. How could it? Not the feds, man. Company security. Thorne's personal goons. I was trying to get word to Rachel, saw her leaving her apartment building this morning, looking over her shoulder, you know. Then this black SUV tinted windows screeched up. Two big guys, looked like ex-military, grabbed her. Shoved her in. It happened so fast. I tried to follow, but I lost them. A cold fist clenched around my heart, squeezing the air from my lungs. Rachel. Kidnapped. My mind flashed back to David Chen. Asterisk break failure. Asterisk silence permanently. Asterisk these animals weren't just going down fighting, they were lashing out, trying to cut off every loose end, even with the FBI breathing down their necks. That image of Thorne, looking defeated. Maybe it was just an act. Maybe the real beast was still thrashing in its cage, and its claws were long. Oh God, I choked out, sinking onto the edge of my sofa, the triumphant news footage now mocking backdrop to this fresh hell. My stomach churned with a nauseating mix of fear and fury. We hadn't just poked the bear, we'd kicked a nest of freaking cobras. Brandon, they know, Mike whispered, his voice trembling. They must know she was the source, or they suspect. They have eyes everywhere. We gotta assume they're looking for anyone else connected. Anyone like us. Us. The word hung in the air, heavy with unspoken menace. My apartment suddenly felt like a glass cage. Every window a vulnerability, every creak of the floorboards a potential threat. That brief moment of victory? Utterly terrifyingly gone. We were so much deeper in this than I'd ever dared to imagine, swimming with sharks in a pitch-black ocean, and Rachel was bleeding. "Mike," I said, my voice raspy, trying to force down the panic. "Where are you? And this evidence you have, how fast can you get it to me?" We had to move. Now. For Rachel. For ourselves. The game wasn't over. It had just entered a far more lethal stage. "Mike," I practically barked into the phone, my mind a chaotic swirl of fear and adrenaline. "Don't move, tell me where you are, and this evidence is digital. Can you send it to me encrypted, right now?" Every second felt like an eternity, Rachel's face flashing in my mind, her determined eyes, her quiet bravery. Asterisk, they had her. Asterisk, the thought was a shard of ice in my gut. Mike, bless his terrified, resourceful soul, managed to gasp out an address, a small, discreet coffee shop miles away, and confirmed he had everything on a heavily encrypted drive. "I can't send it. Man," he stuttered, "too risky. They could be tracking everything. You gotta come get it. But Brandon, be careful. If they got to Rachel, he didn't need to finish." My apartment, once a refuge, now felt like a trap. I grabbed my keys, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. The drive to meet Mike was a blur of paranoia. Every car behind me was a threat, every shadow held a potential goon. I met him, a pale, shaky guy who looked like he hadn't slept in a year, his eyes darting around like terrified sparrows. He practically threw the drive at me, muttering, "It's all there, Thorne's private ledger, orders for containment, locations of a few off-book properties he uses, maybe they took it to one of those." Containment. The euphemism chilled me to the bone. I didn't waste a second. I called Jacobs, my voice hoarse, laying it all out for Rachel's abduction, Mike's new intel, the possible locations. The fury in Jacobs' voice was palpable, a controlled burn. "We're on it, Miller. Get that drive to my field office, now. We'll find her." And just like that, with Mike's damning evidence, a kind of irrefutable proof that detailed Thorne's direct orders for his dirty work, including a list of his private security team and the secret haunts, the whole rotten structure began to implode. It was like watching a controlled demolition, but way more satisfying. The feds, armed to the absolute teeth, didn't just raid Thorne investments again, they descended on Thorne himself, on his personal life, his hidden bolt holes. I heard later that they found Rachel, shaken but alive, in some godforsaken safe house Thorne owned out in the sticks, just hours before they probably would have. Well, I don't even want to think about it. The relief that washed over me when Jacobs called with that news was so immense, I actually sank to my knees right there in my living room, tears streaming down my face. We'd gotten her back. We'd actually gotten her back. Then came the arrests broadcast on every news channel. Walter Thorne, the untouchable CEO, the puppet master, was dragged out of his penthouse in handcuffs, his face a mask of stunned disbelief, looking like a deflated balloon in an expensive suit. Oh, it was glorious. And Mr. Henderson? My old boss, the one who told me to let it go. He sang like a goddamn canary the second the feds dangled a reduced sentence in front of his snivelling face. Spilled everything through Thorne and anyone else he could think of under the bus to save his own worthless hide. Pathetic. Thorne Investments, that glittering monument to greed and corruption, crumbled into ignominious dust. Its name became a curse, a cautionary tale whispered in boardrooms across the country. The dust eventually settled. Rachel, after some much-needed time to recover, started consulting for the FBI, using her knowledge to help them untangle other corporate rat's nests. As for me, I landed a new job, a senior analyst position at a company where integrity wasn't just a word in a mission statement they ignored. And the whistleblower reward? Let's just say it was enough to ensure I'd never again have to choose between my conscience and keeping a roof over my head. Grandma would have been proud, I thought, a bittersweet ache in my chest. Asterisk, trust your gut, boy. Asterisk, she'd always said. My gut had screamed, and for once, I'd truly listened. Sometimes, late at night, when the city hums outside my window, I still feel a phantom chill, a memory of the fear. I'm not the same naive guy who just wanted to crunch numbers. That Brandon is long gone, burned away in the crucible of Thorne's treachery. I look back and see the threats, Henderson's smarmy voice, the shadowy cars, David Chen's fate, Rachel's terror, and a cold resolve settles in me. They thought they could crush me, silence me, make me just another forgotten casualty. They picked the wrong damn analyst. My revenge wasn't just watching their empire burn, it was knowing that I, just Brandon Miller, had stood my ground, refused to look away, and in the end, my quiet refusal had become the rod that brought them down. And that was a victory sweeter than any number on a spreadsheet. They really thought they could break me, just sweep me under the rug like I was nothing. I know the casualty for their greedy machine. They figured I'd just roll over. That they seriously underestimated the fire they ignited in me. It wasn't some light explosion at first, just this deep, quiet burn of defiance. Watching Thorne's world go up in flames, seeing him dragged off, yeah, that was sweet, incredibly sweet. But my real revenge, the part that truly settles in my soul. It wasn't just their downfall. It was knowing that Brandon Miller, the guy they dismissed, refused to look away. When everyone else cowered, I stood my ground. And sometimes, that quiet refusal, that single voice saying no more, that's the roar that brings empires to their knees. They picked the wrong damn analyst to silence. And that feeling? That's a victory I'll savor for a lifetime.